Hello everybody and welcome back to That's Football Podcast. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe because we've got plenty of football content coming your way. In our very first episode, we talked about the state of modern football and some of the biggest stories shaping the game today. The response from all of you was absolutely incredible. So first of all, thank you for the support. Today we've got a fantastic discussion lined up because the 2026 World Cup is getting closer and closer. And fans around the world are already debating who will lift the trophy. There are so many strong contenders. You've got defending champions, traditional football powerhouses, exciting young squads, and a few dark horses that could surprise everyone. To help us break it all down, I'm joined by a man who knows a thing or two about football at the highest level. Former Liverpool defender, pundit, and football analyst, Jamie Carragher. Jamie, welcome to That's Football Podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here. The World Cup is always one of the most fascinating topics in football because everyone has an opinion. Every fan believes their nation can go all the way, and every tournament produces surprises. That's what makes it special.
Let's get straight into it then. When people talk about the 2026 World Cup, there are a handful of nations that immediately come to mind. But if I put you on the spot right now and asked you to pick one country that you believe is most likely to win the tournament, who are you choosing?
If I'm making a prediction today, I'd probably lean towards France. Now, that doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win it because international football doesn't work like that. But when you look at the balance of their squad, the depth they possess, and the amount of elite talent available to them, it's difficult to ignore. What impresses me most about France is that they have world-class players in virtually every position. They combine experience with youth better than almost any other nation. You've got players who have already played in major finals and won the biggest trophies, but at the same time, you've got younger players coming through who bring energy, hunger, and fearlessness. The other thing is tournament experience. France have consistently gone deep in major competitions over the last decade. When you repeatedly reach semi-finals and finals, it creates a mentality within the squad. Players become comfortable under pressure, and that's incredibly important in World Cups because eventually every team faces moments where the margins are tiny.
A lot of people watching this will probably agree with you, but there are also plenty who would argue that Argentina have earned the right to be favourites after their recent success. What would you say to those fans?
It's a completely fair argument. Argentina have been outstanding. Winning a World Cup changes a nation's confidence. It proved that the players can handle the biggest moments. What I admire about Argentina is their mentality. They fight for every ball, they defend together, and they play with enormous passion. Even when they aren't producing their best football, they find ways to win matches. The challenge for Argentina is maintaining that level over multiple tournaments. Football evolves quickly. Other nations study you. New generations emerge. Injuries happen. That's why repeating success is so difficult. I still believe Argentina will be one of the strongest teams in the competition, but if we're talking about who has the deepest squad from top to bottom, I think France might have a slight edge.
Let's talk about England, because whenever a World Cup comes around, expectations in England seem to reach unbelievable levels. Fans start dreaming, newspapers start talking about football coming home, and suddenly the pressure is enormous. How do you assess England's chances heading into 2026?
England absolutely have a chance. There's no question about that. If you look at the quality available to England, it's probably one of the strongest groups of players they've had in decades. There is talent throughout the squad. The attacking options are exceptional. The midfield is full of quality, and many of these players are competing at the highest level every single week. The biggest question isn't talent, it's whether they can deliver in the decisive moments. When you look back at recent tournaments, England have often been very close. They've reached latter stages and shown they can compete with elite nations. The next step is finding a way to win those biggest matches against the very best opposition. That's where tournaments are decided, not in the group stage, not in comfortable victories. They're decided when you're facing another world-class nation and one moment changes everything.
So if England aren't your favourites, where would you rank them among the contenders?
I'd comfortably place them in the top group. If I was making tiers, I'd have France right at the top, then nations like England, Argentina, Spain, and perhaps one or two others immediately behind. The gap isn't huge. That's important to understand. A World Cup isn't like a league season. The best team doesn't always win. Sometimes one injury, one red card, one penalty shootout completely changes the tournament. England definitely have enough quality to win it. The question is whether everything comes together at the right time.
You mentioned Spain there. They seem to have rebuilt remarkably well over the last few years. How dangerous could they be in 2026?
Very dangerous. Spain are returning to something that made them successful in the past, while also adding modern qualities to their game. They still value possession and technical excellence, but they're becoming more direct and more dynamic. What excites me about Spain is the amount of young talent coming through. They have players who could become global superstars over the next few years. When young players gain confidence and experience before a World Cup, they can transform a team's chances dramatically. That's why Spain are definitely a nation I'd be watching very closely.
Now, Jamie, we've talked about France, Argentina, England and Spain, but whenever people discuss World Cups, one nation always comes up: Brazil. 5-time world champions, the most successful nation in football history. Yet it's been quite a while since they last lifted the trophy. How do you assess Brazil heading into 2026?
Brazil are always fascinating because no matter what their form looks like, they remain one of the biggest threats in international football. The shirt alone carries enormous weight. Every player who represents Brazil understands the history and expectations that come with it. The challenge for Brazil over recent years has been finding the perfect balance between flair and structure. Historically, they've produced some of the most talented attacking plays the game has ever seen. But modern football demands organisation, discipline, and tactical flexibility. What I like about the current generation is that they're beginning to develop more maturity. They've got exciting attacking talent, plenty of pace, creativity, and technical quality. If they can build consistency and confidence before the tournament, they're absolutely capable of reaching the latter stages. I don't think anyone should underestimate Brazil. When knockout football begins, they're one of the last teams I'd want my nation facing.
What about Germany? They've had some difficult tournaments in recent years compared to the standards they've set throughout history. Are they capable of making a comeback?
Germany are one of those countries you can never completely write off. Every time people start saying Germany are finished, they seem to find a way back. That's because their football culture is built around discipline, planning, and development. The recent struggles have certainly raised questions. Some tournaments haven't gone the way they expected, and there have been periods where they've looked vulnerable. But football moves quickly. What Germany needs is momentum. If they build confidence over the next couple of years and key players hit peak form at the right moment, they become extremely dangerous. One thing Germany have always done well is managing pressure. World Cups are emotional, chaotic tournaments. Germany historically stay calm when others panic. That alone makes them a serious contender.
Let's talk about Portugal. They've got one of the most talented squads they've ever produced. Could 2026 finally be their year?
Portugal are a really interesting case because when people think of Portuguese football, they often focus on individual stars. But what impresses me most today is their squad depth. There are quality players throughout the team. Defensively, they're strong. Their midfield has creativity and control, and their attack can hurt opponents in multiple ways. The question for Portugal is consistency. Can they produce elite performances against the biggest teams repeatedly throughout a tournament? Because winning the World Cup isn't about one great performance, it's about delivering at a high level for 7 matches against world-class opposition. If Portugal find that consistency, they're absolutely capable of surprising a lot of people.
Now let's move away from the obvious favourites. Every World Cup seems to produce a dark horse. A nation nobody expects to go deep suddenly reaches the semi-finals or beyond. Who could be that team in 2026?
That's one of my favourite questions because every tournament delivers surprises. A nation I keep an eye on is Morocco. What they achieved recently wasn't a fluke. They showed incredible organisation, discipline and belief. When a team reaches the latter stages of a major tournament, it changes the mentality of the entire footballing nation. Players start believing they belong at that level. Another team I'd watch is the Netherlands. They often fly slightly under the radar despite producing outstanding players. They always seem capable of causing problems for bigger nations. And then you've got countries like Croatia who consistently outperform expectations. They may not always have the deepest squad, but they possess experience and resilience that can be incredibly valuable.
One thing fans love discussing is individual awards. Let's talk about the Golden Boot. Who do you think could finish as the top scorer at the World Cup?
Predicting top scorers is always difficult because so much depends on the draw and how far teams progress. Generally speaking, the winner usually comes from a nation that reaches at least the semi-finals. There are several players who could challenge. Modern football has so many elite attackers capable of scoring goals consistently. What I look for is not just talent but opportunity. Is the player taking penalties? Is the team built around them? Will they play every minute? Those factors matter enormously. I think we'll see some younger stars emerge as genuine contenders. Every World Cup creates new heroes, and 2026 will be no different.
Let's talk about pressure. Which nation do you think faces the most pressure heading into the tournament?
England are always near the top of that list, simply because expectations are so high. The media attention is relentless. Every result becomes a national discussion. Every tactical decision gets analysed. But I'd also say France face pressure because they're expected to win. Success creates expectations. Argentina will face pressure as defending champions. Fans naturally expect another deep run. The reality is that pressure affects every major nation differently. Some teams embrace it, others struggle with it. The key is turning pressure into motivation rather than fear.
What about the host nations? The tournament is being played across North America. Does that change anything?
Hosting always creates unique circumstances. The atmosphere will be incredible. The scale of the event will be massive. The stadiums will be packed with fans from around the world. Sometimes host nations benefit enormously from the support and familiarity. Other times the pressure becomes overwhelming. What's certain is that playing in North America will create a unique World Cup experience unlike anything we've seen before. The travel demands, climate conditions, and logistics will all play a role. Teams that adapt quickly will have an advantage.
Let's imagine we're approaching the quarterfinals. Which teams do you expect to still be standing?
I'd be surprised if France weren't there. I'd expect Argentina to be competing deep into the tournament. England have enough quality to reach that stage. Spain are another team I'd strongly back. Beyond that, Brazil, Germany, Portugal, and perhaps a dark horse could complete the picture. Of course, football never follows the script perfectly. Every World Cup delivers shocks, but those are the nations I'd expect to be strongest.
You've played football at the highest level. What separates teams that reach finals from teams that get knocked out?
Mentality. People often assume it's purely about talent, but when you reach the final stages of a World Cup, almost every team is talented. The difference comes down to decision making under pressure. Can you stay calm when you're trailing? Can you defend a lead with 10 minutes remaining? Can you handle a penalty shootout? Can your leader step forward in difficult moments? Those factors decide tournaments. We've seen incredibly talented teams leave competitions early because they lost composure at the wrong moment.
So Jamie, we're getting close to the big question. If the World Cup started tomorrow and you had to predict the final, who would be playing?
If I had to choose today, I'd probably go with France against England. I think both squads have extraordinary quality. France have experience, depth and balance. England have talent throughout the team and are capable of beating anyone on their day. It would be a fascinating final because both nations possess different strengths.
And finally, the question everyone clicked on this video for. You've analysed the contenders, you've assessed the favourites, you've discussed the dark horses. Who wins the 2026 FIFA World Cup?
My prediction today will be France, not because they're unbeatable, not because football is predictable, but because when I look at every area of their squad, I see quality, I see depth, I see experience, I see players capable of deciding games individually, and I see a nation that's consistently competing at the highest level. Will they definitely win? Of course not. World Cups are unpredictable. Injuries happen. Upsets happen. Football has a habit of making experts look foolish. But if you're asking me to pick one team right now, France would be my choice.
There you have it, Jamie Carragher's official prediction for the 2026 World Cup winner, France. Now it's over to you. Do you agree with Jamie? Is France your pick? Or do you think England, Argentina, Brazil, Spain, Portugal, Germany, or perhaps a surprise nation will lift the trophy? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to That's Football Podcast, Leave a like on the video and share it with your football-loving friends. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see all of you in the next episode of That's Football Podcast. Take care.